Hey guys, Dace here. What is up? Man, I'm stoked because we are going to be doing, guess what, Gunvolt 2, or Azure Striker Gunvolt 2, and we're going to be playing as Copen this time around. So, he plays so incredibly differently than Gunvolt. I mentioned this in the last episode, which would have been the final episode of the Gunvolt run through number 2, and yeah, I touched just a little bit about how like they are worlds apart in terms of how they operate. It's not even really the same flow of levels per se. It's pretty much its own game, which is sweet. That the Striker pack comes with 1 and 2, and then 2 is like game 2, but with like another game altogether. Like it's just awesome. It's just a crazy load of content. So anyway, so the way Copen works is he's got like this little drone friend with him, which can like switch between weapons and stuff. So you more or less, it's like Mega Man. You get a weapon from each boss, or each of the main bosses anyway, that you beat. So I'm pretty much just using the lightning one at this point, as you can see, the zapping and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, as for Copen himself, he's got this really wicked flow to him. It's unlike anything I've ever played before, and the first time I got into it, it threw me off because I had never played anything like it. But as you can see, what he does is he has like a dash attack. So essentially what happens is you dash forward and bump into an enemy, which locks onto it with like a pink target, and that means that once it's targeted, you can just hold down the fire button, and your gun, you'll be shooting like shots from your gun to target whatever you have a target on. So that's really cool. And you have like bullets in the bottom left corner. So I have only 3 right now, but you can like purchase more like for your max total or whatever. And essentially that's how many like dashes you can do, and then of course you can just reload by double tapping the down button. So essentially you can use it for just dashing like nice long spans like you just saw me do. And I'm not sure of all the ins and outs, but I know that like sometimes if you bounce off an enemy, as long as you're hitting like either I think a wall or an enemy, you don't like lose a button or a bullet per se. But I could be mistaken. Like it's not something I really paid too much attention to because I was just too busy blasting my way through the game and having a wicked time with it. So other than that, he's got a different system. Like you still do like synthesizing, but what's really cool about Copen, and it'll come up, I think, at the start of one of the levels. I kind of just like, it might be that, or before we jump into a level, I kind of go over the menus and stuff that he has. So maybe I'll even just save that chit chat for when we get to that part of this episode. But yeah, he's just, like I said, he's just way different than Gunvolt. They're both awesome characters, and what's interesting too is like I was going for with each character respectively, I was going for 80% or higher for the challenges, so that I could have access to like the true secret boss fight and the ending or whatever. I think the boss fight happens regardless, but it might be the true ending that gets unlocked. But either way, yeah, so it was kind of interesting going from Gunvolt to this guy, and then going back to Gunvolt once I had Copen's percentage high enough, because yeah, like I said, they just play so differently that going back and forth once you're used to one, it can just be kind of trippy in ways. But as you can see, like it's just as destructive as when I play with Gunvolt himself. Oh man, but there's just something so awesome about the flow of these games. Man, it's just so good. And once again, like I've got to say, like the level creation, like just the everything, like the creativity that was pooled into these projects. Oh, just so good. The boss that we fight at the end of this level is actually one of my favorites, and yeah, she's just amazing. So I'm eager to showcase that little section, but anyway, I trust everybody is doing stellar today. Oh man, yeah, actually I finished my first playthrough of Gunvolt Chronicles Luminous Avengers IX, which I think I did like the first couple levels last night, and then today when I got up I just polished off the rest. It was actually, yeah, it was like really quick. It's not that it's like in some ways it is a short game compared to some, but like it doesn't feel like too short. But I think I just, for whatever reason, just went through it like at insano speed, and because I was just having such a great time with it. It was so good. I just want to wrap it up. So once I'm done doing the 2 Copen episodes that I have lined up here, I'm gonna start recording my run of Gunvolt Chronicles, and then get the voiceover stuff for that done. So that will pretty much bring all the Gunvolt stuff to a close, unless I get the Mighty Gunvolt on the eShop, which is like the more retro-looking pixel art platformer, where you're playing as Gunvolt and doing whatever it is you do in that game. I haven't looked into it a ton, but I do know that definitely exists, so really eager to check that out. But I might wait for a sale, because yeah, I don't feel like dropping the fundage just yet. But yeah, so that's kind of like what's been going on. So far it's been just an epic Gunvolt ride for like the last weekend, a few days, or however long it's been. It hasn't been super long, but I have just gone crazy through these games. It's just been so good, and I highly recommend these to anyone who's into Mega Man style games, as these are heavily inspired by that franchise. And once again, like, we just got epic backgrounds. Like, just look at the window, and oh, I love it. So anyway, here we are going up against her. Oh man. And interestingly enough, one thing I didn't even realize, too consciously anyway, was the fact that, like, you don't take damage initially. Like, what happens is if you have your bullets full, and you get hit by something, it will just subtract from your available bullets. So, you, like, right now I could technically be loading, but I think I was unaware at the time, believe it or not. Probably just because I, like, just skipped all the chit chat at the start of Gunvolt and all that stuff, so I wasn't fully aware of, like, all the ins and outs. Not like it made a difference, because I did just, yeah, go through everything without an issue anyway. But it's a really sweet idea. So as long as you're keeping topped up, you can pretty much keep your damage or your health at max or close to it. But one thing that is nice is, like, you can get additional bullets, which means that, let's say you have like 5 bullets available, you get hit by like an attack from a boss or whatever, and that subtracts 2. So it's like you're fine. You can take another hit. You can even reload right then and there if you want to, just to like be on the safe side or whatever the case is. So there are just a lot of cool ins and outs. So anyway, this is the part where we're looking at. So he's got these slots. I didn't realize I was going through that so fast, but essentially I showed the screen for the boss weapons you get, and then the thing with all those like little hexagons or whatever they were, that's his like memory. So essentially the things you synthesize, let's say you buy something that's like -5% damage, that will maybe, let's say, take up 6 whole slots, which is like, that's a big chunk, big enough anyway. But what happens is each of those items that you insert has a little experience bar, When that levels up, it starts to use less of that space, which is sweet because then you can fit more gear into those slots. So I think I have like 2 -5 damage, -5% damage. I have a third one, but I don't have the space for it yet. But I have some other things in there too, which I really enjoy. So yeah, Copen just has a lot of really, really cool things. And then that section I showed of the 2 skills, like there was the like shred attack or whatever he does, and then healing, which you can only do when you're like in the pause menu, but it pretty much just fills your health all the way to maximum as long as it's like loaded and ready to go. So that's a benefit for sure. But yeah, just the way, if you're into characters that just can zip around and just be super fast and just execute things to a T and just be so like over the top proficient, then Copen is definitely a blast to play with. Oh man, him and Gunvolt are both amazing, but like there's just something about Copen that gives you that extra edge if you want the speed and just being all over the place, and just, yeah, it's so good. And yeah, so it's not the first time we've seen these dudes, but it is a fun fight nonetheless. I love these guys, they're so cool. Like, just look at the gun, like the guns that guy has like as fingers, and they're just blasting like crazy. And at the end of this level, the final boss is actually one that we don't see in the Gunvolt run at all. So that was a delightful and refreshing twist when I got to him. It's really cool stuff. It's a fun fight. So I'm eager to get to that. Shred Storm. Oh man, he got shredded. Man, these games are like, I could just watch this all day. This is so good. Everything from the visuals to just the movement of the characters and just the enemy variety that we've got going on here. So here's the boss. He's just this big ass guy. And it's our job to take him out. And his arms detach. Which I think is badass. And then they do like their own attacks or whatever. It's not by any means a difficult boss. As you can see, I've got him like 1/3 down already. And you can pretty much just ignore damage because like nothing in these games really threatens you. Yeah, there are some times where it's like, if it's your first time going up against the final boss or something, you might get just wasted or whatever the case is, but for the most part, like, all of these bosses were just yeah, pretty straightforward in terms of like not needing to figure out what to do just to take them out. Like, sometimes games will just do that. I know in some Mega Man games that was the case, where it's just like, what am I supposed to be doing to deal with this guy? Like, what? I just don't get it. But anyway, he's toast. He is so toast. He is burnt toast, man. Ooh, the butterflies. Okay, and we'll skip ahead to Prism Highway. So this is a really cool level. Once again, just really, really creative. And there's some neat things you can do in this one, which once again just like keeps things so fresh and interesting. And look at the colors, like, what? So we're not gonna see it in this because I did it on my own time, but like, there's one challenge where you've got to use the crystals you've got to fire through the crystals, which has the shot going out on like a different angle or whatever. But you use the crystals to take out enemies by shooting into the crystals and like just getting the angling and stuff like that. Sometimes you're using like 3 different crystals firing one way just to have it like bounce back or whatever the case is. So just, yeah, really, really cool stuff and just epic visuals, epic colors. Like everything is just so nice to look at. It's crazy good. Man, if there's one thing that I can say about getting into Gunvolt the last week and a bit, like, it's that Inti Creates is like anything they put out from here on out, I want to be like guaranteeing myself that I get whatever it is. It doesn't even matter what it is. Like, they have just proven that, like, man, they are on fire with like these action adventure 2D side-scrolling platformers. Like, they're just so good. Like, I cannot even express how good they are. I already know what I'm getting next. It's actually something that's been on my wish list for a long time. My Amazon one anyway, because I want the physical. But Dragon Marked for Death. Oh, if you guys have not checked that out, it's essentially Monster Hunter, but 2D platformer, side-scrolling, and it just looks so good. There are definitely some pros and cons to it that if you look up the game, like, people definitely mention it. But I'm so sold. I don't even care. I am so sold on that game. So anyway, here's the part where we ride the bike. I think I mentioned this in one of the last episodes of the Gunvolt run, where you're just like cruising along. The funny thing is, like, you don't even have to jump. Like, you're not avoiding anything. Like, you really don't take damage from much of anything during this sequence. And then we got this guy skating along. Epic city in the background, so cool. As you can see, like, I'm not taking much of anything. I don't think I'm even taking damage right now. No, it's just like bullets are going. It just does not matter. And I did not mean to fall on that save point. So now this is the same fight as when you do it with Gunvolt. Man, half the time you don't even see what's happening. Like, you just know the boss is somewhere in that blast of color spraying everywhere. It's so good. But he's got some really cool attacks. Poetry Slam! So cool. So, now that I've finished Gunvolt Chronicles, I'm really interested if they're in seeing if they're going to do like something else Gunvolt. In Chronicles, you only play as Copen. You don't have like Gunvolt to play as. So I'm wondering if like the next one is going to be like Gunvolt 3, where in this one, instead of playing as Copen or something, we go back to playing as Gunvolt, and it's just some like epic story or whatever. Who knows what they might do next? Or maybe they're going to do something totally different that is like just not Gunvolt at all. I suppose just, yeah, time will tell, and we'll see what they do, but I'm really excited either way. Or maybe they'll do something even more like along the lines of Dragon Marked for Death. That would be sweet too. Frozen Shitty. Some of the levels are just so set up for just flying. Like in a situation where I had like more bullets, I would have just gone across this whole section in the air instead of like going along the bottom where you're just encountering enemies you don't need to be like dealing with and all this stuff. Ha, 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 ha. And the menus are really, really cool too. They look so sweet. Oh yes. We're actually almost done this episode. That's amazing. Ooh, look who it is. I found it initially anyway, like during this fight and like the first time I came across Gunvolt or Copen if I was playing as Gunvolt, I found it, I think more so with Copen because like you've got to have bullets in order to do a dash, in order to target, so like between Gunvolt like phasing out or whatever the hell he does, it was just like wonky at first getting a target on him, but the thing is the technique I just used there takes a huge chunk of his damage down, so it's an easy enough way to just deal with him. Just do a little bit of damage at first and then nail him with that skill and he's pretty much gone. Or sometimes you go to dash into an enemy and then you realize you don't even have bullets, so yeah. And once again, for the alarm rooms, it's just faster to go for the siren instead of dealing with all the enemies that it's going to dish out for you. And as per usual, I don't really pay any attention to like spike pits. They're kind of just like, yeah, whatever. If they're in my way, I just walk over them. Oh. Now, if you're playing as Copen, which I am, you can actually use, I think it's the purple crystal weapon against that block that was in the wall there. And there were a few of those in other levels where, yeah, there are just things you want to collect or whatever the case is, so. And if you're in the air when you double tap down to refill your bullets, you'll do like a downward smash, which you just saw, so that's something else to note too. Like, yeah, there's just a lot of stuff you can do as Copen, which is sweet. The Ice Boy. This guy thinks he's so cool. Oh yeah, another thing Copen can do, and I think I showcase it at some point, or maybe I'm not sure exactly. It's probably in one of these episodes, but if you hold down the dash and you hit a wall, you'll like bounce off that wall and go to whatever next wall. So you can like literally just hold it and like go all the way like back and forth up like different shafts or like bounce all over the place. I didn't really find myself to need that at all in this game, so like you might just see it once because I want to at least show it once, but it is at least in the game for those who want to like make full use of that kind of ability. So cool. And our final level, if I'm not mistaken. And this one is, yeah, this one's pretty short. It's not a full level, it's literally just like we get here and we fight her, and then that's it. So yeah, but I do love this battle area because the background art is just so cool. And he automatically hovers after doing a hit, as you can see me doing right now. So that's something else that I think is just really cool. And you can jump up and like tap to hover as well if you want to. But there's just no double jump, so that's something to get used to if you're used to double jumping all the time. Which if you're playing as Gunvolt anytime, like you have that capability, so yeah. Just something to keep in mind. Yeah, she's taking a beating, that is for sure. But anyway, you guys, that's pretty much bringing us to the end of this episode, so definitely let me know what you think down below if this is something you would play, or maybe you have and you enjoyed it as much as I do, or maybe you liked one of the other games more. But yeah, leave all that stuff down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'm really enjoying doing these vids. This is definitely a treat. But yeah, we will see you next time. Have a stellar one, and yeah, take care.